Okay, so here we have an order, and this is dealing with some liquids, right? This is an oral suspension. So we have an order to give nystatin. We've got to give 250,000 units by mouth, swish and swallow 3 times a day for patient with oral candidiasis. So how many milliliters are we going to give? So this time our desired answer is not tablet per dose anymore, but we're switching it to a milliliter per dose. Milliliter per dose. Now that means our first fraction needs some milliliters at the top. And just like on the tablets, our first fraction typically comes from the label. So reading up here on your label, we can see there's 60 milliliters in the bottle, but there's 100,000 units per 1 milliliter. So we're going to use that in our dimensional analysis here. 1 milliliter contains 100,000 units. Now, if you're seeing me write this, I put a space between there because it makes it easier to count those zeros. But if I'm typing that in as an actual answer, I'm not going to put that space. Okay. Moodle doesn't like those spaces in there in those numbers. But if it's just me doing my work, I kind of tend to leave a space because I missed that comma, honestly. So 100,000 units, and that's coming from our label there. Now that puts units at the bottom, so we're going to need some units at the top. And as long as the units are matching, we can pull that from our order. So let's pull in that 250,000 units per dose, because we are going to have to give it 3 times a day, but 250,000 units every single time. Now that seems like a whole heck of a lot. I mean, that's a lot of units, but remember, we're actually just going to be handing the patient milliliters. Okay, so it's not going to have all that in it, but look at your units, make sure they're canceling. So units cancel with units, you're left with milliliter on top, dose on bottom. So we run the math and we wind up with 2.5 milliliters. Okay, 2.5 milliliters per dose. They're getting it 3 times a day. So 2.5, 2.5, 2.5. But for how many milliliters are you going to give? They want that single dose answer there. So like I said, we felt like 100,000, 250,000 units was big, but again, you're just handing them some milliliters here. It just has that much medication in it. Okay, looking at the next one. Oh, we've got this syrup. Okay, so again, it's in a liquid format here, but it's a syrup for a patient with some nausea. So what is the trade name? So looking at your label, you've got the big bold registered trademark. That one is our trade name. The smaller one is our, well, longer but smaller. That one is our generic name. Now, part B wants to know how many milliliters will you give? So this goes back to a desired answer of milliliter per dose. First fraction needs some milliliters with it. And that's going to come from our label. Up there at the top of the label, it tells us 5 ml is 5 milligrams. And then we're going to jump to, if that's put milligram at the bottom, we need milligrams at the top. And our order was telling us 12 milligrams per dose. They're going to get 3 doses in a day, but 12 milligrams per dose. And those units are going to cancel. Milliliter per dose is what we're left with. So we're ready to run the math. And we're going to wind up with a 12 milliliters per dose. So again, I've got those purple words in there just to kind of show you where some things are coming from. I know when we were talking about the tablets, if your units on the label and units in your order don't match, then you have to throw in a conversion factor, but we didn't have any of those in this one, but it's possible. Oh, I also wanted to talk about the 12 milliliter answer. Sometimes students see this connection that our 12 milliliter answer is the same as our 12 milligram order. Is that always going to be the case? No. I mean, go back and look at the previous problem. But the reason it happened here is because of the math in your equation. This label the concentration from the label here, 5 mil is 5 milligrams. That 5 and 5 reduce themselves down to 1. Okay, so this is really like a big 1 that's being multiplied by the 12 from your order. So of course it's going to wind up with 12 milliliters as your answer. Okay, that doesn't always happen, but when you see these same numbers over each other in the concentration and you don't have a conversion, then yeah, you might stumble into that. So I just wanted you to be aware that sometimes we see that, but not always. Okay.